I want to share a method with you which will allow you to discover your true nature, your true self. This method is simple and obvious, but at the same time it points to something which is just fundamentally true about ourselves. I spent so much time on this channel talking about our true nature, the meaning of it, the implications of its discovery, why we overlook it, how it is the cure for our suffering. But on the other hand, I haven't spent nearly as much time actually discussing how we can discover our true nature. And of course, actually discovering it is vitally important. The true value of any genuine spiritual practice is that it allows us to discover something for ourselves and about ourselves. It is fundamentally based in experience. It's not just conceptual knowledge gained from dead books or repeated teachings. True spiritual practice and self-inquiry always points to something that is true in our actual experience about ourselves. And in the following, I will describe a method which has been deeply influential on me. I love it for its simplicity and directness, and this is why I'm excited to share it with you today. Before I get to the actual method, I just want to reiterate something that I have previously mentioned in other videos. We have to keep in mind that when we use a method or a technique to recognize our true nature, that it seems like we as a separate being, as a separate body-mind are doing it. But we have to remember that the body-mind can't discover its true nature. Only true nature itself can recognize itself. I really emphasize this because if we take the starting assumption of believing and thinking and feeling to be a separate self, and then from there try to discover our true nature, we will surely be frustrated. Why is that so? Because the separate self actually doesn't exist. What we believe to be a separate self, at its heart, is just a fixation in awareness. On this fixation, which can sometimes be very subtle, many layers of thinking, feeling, and behavior can be built upon, and they form this illusion of being a separate self. In reality, however, the separate self doesn't exist as a real entity. It's just an activity of our true nature. Our true nature is awareness. This awareness is creative and active. It is constantly in motion. And it also creates this fixation, which we believe to be the separate self. But I want to emphasize here that you are your true nature. You are only awareness. You are not something else. You're not a little bit of awareness and a little bit of this false separate self. No, you are fully 100% awareness, because it is all that exists. So this method, which I'm about to share you, if you follow it, will actually not be a separate self doing it. So understand that if you are following this method, you as a separate self are not doing it. Even though it seems like that there is an individual which is engaging in a sort of practice, what is happening in reality is that it is simply true nature, unveiling itself, seeing itself and recognizing itself clearly. So let's get to the method. This method was pioneered by Douglas Harding and is called the headless way. Douglas Harding was interested in the question of what he really was. He pondered on and explored this question in many different ways over a long period of time. If you're interested in his life story and how he came to the discovery of what he really is, I will put a link in the description. But in a nutshell, the realization he came to is the same realization which has been discovered and described in religious and spiritual traditions over thousands of years. It is the realization that our true nature is perfect, crystal clear emptiness, pure awareness, which is taking the form of the world. It is the essential discovery that we are not a separate being. We are this dimensionless awareness at our center. And this awareness is taking the shape of everything we call the world. And this is the essential truth I want to discover with you today. What I love about Douglas Harding's way of pointing is that it gets right to the heart of the issue. The default position for most of us in our lives was to believe that we are a separate self stuck in a body. In particular, We usually believe that we are a separate self which is stuck inside the head. And the brilliance of Douglas Harding's way of pointing to our true nature is that it goes right to this illusion. If you believe to be a separate self, it seems to you that right now you are watching this video from inside your head and through your eyes. It seems obvious to you that you are, of course, behind your eyes, taking in this experience. And this sense of being in the head is something we can question and see to be completely false. There are many ways to question this false belief, but in the following I will go over one method which I personally found very powerful. Before the end of this video, you will actually apply this method for yourself. See that you are not a separate being stuck inside your head, and discover that your true nature is openness, pure awareness. Before we get to that, I want to take a slight detour. I will first elaborate an analogy which will help us to understand our true nature of awareness. I will then proceed to give this analogy a little bit more life, to make it a little bit more obvious what it's pointing to. And then we will apply this analogy to our actual experience and discover our true nature together. I will walk you through a short experiment which has the power to convincingly show you what you really are. So in this analogy, imagine a screen, just like the computer or phone screen which you are currently watching this video on. The screen in this analogy is our true nature of pure awareness. The screen which you are looking at right now has the capacity and the power to take on numerous forms. A seemingly infinite amount of colors and shapes can be displayed on the screen. The screen in itself is in a sense blank, but nevertheless it has the potential to take on all these colors and shapes. And while it has the capacity to do so, the screen in of itself, no matter which shapes it displays, doesn't change. It is always the same screen. It always remains in the same unchanged, untouched condition. It is completely irrelevant if the image the screen displays is an ugly one or is a beautiful one. It can depict a scene of war or of great love, but nevertheless the screen does so effortlessly and without being hurt or damaged in any way. And going back to awareness, the same thing can be said about our true nature of pure awareness. Our true nature, just like the screen, is pure potentiality. It can take an infinite amount of forms and shapes, and you are witnessing it right now. You can't separate the images the screen displays from the screen itself. And so too, you can't separate the forms that awareness takes from awareness itself. Everything we perceive, this whole world which we see in front of us, is just a form that awareness takes. And just like you can't peel the movie off the screen, so too you can't separate the forms that awareness takes from awareness itself. Our perceptions are simply the activity of awareness. So that means just like the movie and the screen are one, so too awareness and our perceptions are one. Like all analogies, this analogy is an imperfect one, because the screen, of course, has a boundary, has a limit. But I'm suggesting to you that our true nature of awareness doesn't have any such limit. It doesn't have any dimension. It is not limited by anything. And the screen, of course, is limited to only display visual images. But our true nature of awareness, of course, has the potential to take any shape and form in any sense modality. This analogy will be important for the following, because I will use it to indicate something that is essential about our experience. So take a short trip with me, and I will show you exactly what I mean. At this point, I would like you to switch the video to full screen. Otherwise, what I'm about to share with you won't come across in the way that it is intended. As you can see, I'm taking in the scenery in front of me. I'm filming this video not like you normally would, by holding a camera out in front of you. I'm actually holding the camera right in front of my face, so that what you're seeing in front of you right now is exactly my own perspective. Now I'm beginning to move my gaze downward to my body. And as you see, I can notice my own body in front of me. I can see my feet, my legs, my torso, my arm, and I can then follow my upper body upwards towards my head. But notice here that this body you're looking at right now doesn't have a head. What is there actually where my head is supposed to be? Well, it is the screen, of course. If my head was actually here, it would block the view down. The screen, of course, is not part of what you're seeing. The screen is displaying everything that is visible. The screen is displaying the body and the world in front of me. But notice that it is not displaying a head. Can you see that the screen, in a sense, has replaced my head? Where my head is supposed to be, there's just a screen, taking the form of everything you see. This video is of course not lying. This is what it looks like from the perspective of my body. And of course, this body you're seeing here right now is not yours. It is my body. But can you recognize that my body doesn't have a head here? There's just the screen, taking the shape of the world, including my headless body. And now I'm beginning to move my gaze upwards. And now see how the screen is effortlessly taking the shape of the scene in front of me. So here is where it gets interesting. So let's apply what we just discovered about the screen and my body and use it to understand yourself and your true nature. So it is your turn now. And it won't do any good to just listen to me. You actually have to do this. If you have to stop the video throughout in order to follow my instructions, that's completely fine. Please do so. So remember that a few moments ago, you were watching this scene from my point of view. And from this perspective, I didn't have a head. My head was replaced by the screen. Now let's look at our bodies for ourselves. We will do the exact same thing you just saw me do and apply it to our own experience. So let's start by relaxing. Allow the visual field to open and take in everything that is in front of you. Don't just be focused on this video you're watching. Actually take in everything you see in front of you. Now that we have this relaxed, wide open view, start to look down now. I will do this with you, but remember, you have to do this for yourself. So look down at your body. See your legs in front of you. Whether you're sitting or standing, it doesn't really matter. Now follow your body upwards. You see both of your arms at your sides. You see your torso. You see your chest. You see your shoulders. And you keep following your body. And what do you find? What is your upper body ending in? Is it a head? No. Notice that your head is missing. Where you thought your head was, there is just this wide open emptiness, taking in the scene in front of you. And notice this openness, this awake awareness, which is taking in everything you're seeing. You might notice your nose or your mouth appearing in your visual field. But what are they attached to? Are they attached to anything? Aren't they just sticking out of this openness, this emptiness that is full of the world? Now start to look up again and see that this recognition is just as true now You are not this head. Recognize that it is not you as a separate self inside the head taking in this experience right now. You are, as you just saw, this wide open emptiness, dimensionless, pure awareness, which is taking the form of the world you see in front of you. You don't have to struggle to maintain this insight. You are this. It just seemed to be hidden because you were fixated on the world of experience. But notice how easy and effortless it is to be this, to be your true nature. Can you see how easy it is to recognize this? How obvious it is? Of course, there was never this I on this side, taking in the world on the outside. There was always just this openness. You have never been anything else. So recognize this, live from this, drop your neurotic fixations, and live from this openness. You will surely not be disappointed. There is so much more to say about this experience. If you weren't able to follow me here, that's fine. I know it can be challenging to the mind. But realize that I'm only pointing to something that is true about yourself. Discover this for yourself. Do it many times over if you have to. I'll also put a link in the description where the headless way is explored in more detail. If you found this interesting and useful, well, you're in luck, because I'm sure to make more videos about this understanding and realization and how we can live from it. If you enjoy my work and you want to support me, check out the links in the description. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with my latest videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you right here next time.